everyone. Okay, so yeah, let's just jump right in the deep end, because due to the prior moment earlier in the chapter of Pino getting knocked unconscious, the end of this chapter reveals to us the memories of the Starshines, which is to say, their histories and their memories are tied to the past in a timeline and a world that was pretty much a one for one of our society as it exists today. And honestly, I'm not all that shocked about this reveal because when looking at old ruins we've explored from other planets like the Mud Planet in our search for the trinkets that Mother uses as her relics, the architecture of such ruins do bear a resemblance in a way to buildings of our modern day, like the ones we saw on the Mud Planet. And it's not even talking about the more obvious reveal we get. We got arcs and chapters back about the Dark Star's memories, where like they had these jobs as like lawyers, doctors, all that kind of thing. And it's one of those things where it's like, I mean, obviously lawyers and doctors and all that would probably still exist in a more modern like space age society like exists today, but it's also like the way they were dressed wasn't really very futuristic, you could say. It was just more pretty much like how we dress today. So it's like, yeah, even little things like that really gave, in some ways, I think gave it away more than I thought that it would. Kind of looking back, like, do give this reveal away in a lot of respects. Of course, the more important part to dissect with this reveal, however, is when we cut to Hermit, where she says the planet is screaming. There isn't much time left. Which obviously says some kind of event happened that either destroyed the planet or left it absolutely lifeless. And knowing what we know, that Ziggy had turned them and the Dark Stars into androids, again, it's all starting to line up, which is to say, whatever Hermit was doing at the time to try and save the planet from destruction, ultimately failed, leading to Ziggy having to swoop in order to save their lives and the ones they cared about, who he would later turn into, again, the Shining Stars, the Demon King's 4 Shining Stars, and the Demon King's Dark Stars. And honestly, if Ziggy actually truly erased their memories to save them from like having to relive or revisit that trauma of nearly died along with their world, then yeah, I can only imagine what will happen if they do regain those memories. And if it may happen sooner than later, given the beginning of this chapter where we supposedly come across a dead world. And again, I don't want to make any assumptions just yet, but that might be their old world or something. Like, it might have become like a frozen wasteland of sorts, but again, I can't say for sure if that's actually their world that we're approaching. Now, the part of this that still needs to be figured out, though, is how the events of the Starshines past are going to bleed over into the present. Because last chapter, Pino made it clear that supposedly tragedy is destined to repeat itself. And honestly, the biggest thing that this chapter did is make me rethink who's going to die. Because although the biggest death flags were directed at the Starshines, between last chapter and this one, I am kind of more riding on the train of thought that Pino might make the sacrifice play to save everyone. Like, I can't put it into proper words, but it feels like ever since Pino used her powers to save Ziggy, that those same powers or something similar will come back into play in order to save everyone in this final arc at the cost of Pino's life. Like, and the thing is, as I was reading this chapter, I was kind of thinking back to pretty much the very moment in the series where Pino had awakened her overdrive ability in order to save Ziggy. And it was during that moment and it was even before that moment where Ziggy supposedly killed Pino. But the thing, as we learned, she didn't actually die. But I'm kind of looking back on that moment as sort of like, was Mashima kind of like foreshadowing Pino's fate in the series? Like, again, I'm looking back on that series and I'm like, was that his first moment where he's like, is he going to have Pino make the sacrifice play in order to save everyone? It's Everyone probably isn't likely going to initially die in the final conflict, but then Pino's going to come in and sacrifice herself in order to save everyone. It feels like that's kind of what he's playing at, because just in the way that Mashima is building up these death flags, for all the Starshines, it feels way too obvious. Like he's egging us on to think they're gonna die, only to pull the rug out from under us, and the Starshines can still die, but again, I don't think it's the thing that's. But the way he's building it up, it's not gonna last either. But so yeah, I'm thinking right now. I'm just kind of on the train of thought that Pino is actually probably going to more likely to permanently die in this series. Honestly, I think. With that said, it still feels great. It's still great to see a lot of these introspective moments with the Starshines, like seeing Valkyrie lamenting the fact that she died in the other universes and wondering if she should have or will die in this one, to only for Homura to break down in tears and tell her to keep on living for the sake of others that live in this world. Or the little tender moment between Weiss and Hermit, which, yeah, Man's become a full-on romantic. He's even developed his own riz over the course of the series with when you see Hermit flirting with him and then him flirting back, saying, "It's not because you're an android, it's because you're you." A comment hell, it's again, Hermit and Weiss have such an adorable relationship. It's just sickening sometimes, sickeningly cute sometimes. Hell, even the goofy ass BDSM moment between Ivory and Moscow had some nice introspection about Eames 1 and whether Milt will really be okay. Which, yeah, I'm hoping it is okay, but you never know. And yeah, all that being said, I think the only gripe I generally have with this chapter is that I wish we could have gotten a little bit more with the past segments, but it's not really anything terrible. It's just one of those obvious. It's just one of those usual things of setting the stage for it, so we can really go balls deep into what happened next chapter. And it's just the way it ends off. It has me saying it's just one of those personal gripes where I'm like, oh, come on, you're gonna leave us hanging like that? Mashima, you suck. It's kind of that thing where I'm a little angry it ended where it did, but again, that's really the only gripe I can find with this chapter. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Analyst, Crunchyroll, push the notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight of the Night signing off. Later, everyone.